If you can win the presidency using creators, then you can certainly sell some skincare. Welcome, Negronis with Nord, episode 94. I am the Nord in Negronis with Nord. This is the Negroni. Look, we are bringing another solo episode to you. We've had a bit of news here in the last few weeks in this country. It is rare that this industry is at the forefront of traditional news and is being talked about as much as it has been in the last few weeks since Donald Trump won the election. The last time I felt like there was this much attention and focus on influencer and creator from forces that were not inside the industry was probably during COVID. We're not going to talk political strategy. We're not going to talk about the election. I think there has been quite enough of that. I do think this election will be seen as a pivotal moment in the history of influencer marketing and of advertising when it is looked back on in 5 or 10 years. Why? The American presidency is the most consequential marketing challenge in the world. Winning the presidency is so unique in that there is hundreds of millions, now billions of dollars being spent by two opposing sides. They've got different messages, they've got different strategies for getting those messages out, but they are going for the same thing, and one wins and one loses. There's no clear winner in advertising for the Super Bowl. You can say, this was my favorite ad, I didn't like this ad, I think this company did better, but there's no clear absolute winner. You can't 100% say this worked better than this. The presidency is one of those times, maybe one of the few times. We're not going to focus on positioning, we're not going to focus on message here, but we are going to focus on distribution. I think the first really surprising fact for a lot of people is that the campaign that lost raised and spent more money than the one that won. But we had a campaign on one side that was very well funded, that used more traditional methods of media and more traditional spokespeople in celebrities to try and persuade their audience and get out the vote and win the election. You had another candidate didn't get to spend as much money because they didn't raise as much money and used less traditional methods. And the less traditional creator-first strategy won. Before we go into the importance of that, I don't want to overlook the fact that they were also outspent. So it was exponentially more effective than traditional. Now, let's talk about this creator-first strategy. Marketing is about persuasion. It's about changing people's minds. We can talk all day about impressions and about brand recall and all of these things that can contribute to somebody making a purchase, but ultimately we are trying to change their mind. Again, winning an election is predicated on the same thing. You have to persuade people to either leave their homes and go vote for you and get excited about that, or to switch their vote and vote for you, or vote for the first time and vote for you, right? So it is absolutely a persuasion game. Persuasion is predicated on trust. Again, we're not going to talk about what the actual message was. He went to creators who have an audience that trusts them, that spends hours with them, and he talked to them. I'm going to caveat this by saying I don't think I listened to any. Did you listen to any Trump podcasts?
I listened to part of the Joe Rogan one, and then the Aiden Ross one was so ridiculous
Right. I can't speak to the content. I couldn't get through any of the long form podcasts that Donald Trump did. He had an audience that he was trying to reach. He and that team understood where that audience spends their time and who they trust, and they went directly to those people. On the Harris side, it's not just that she didn't go on enough podcasts. I don't think necessarily going on Rogan would have changed anything. I don't think we have to have a conversation about, does the left wing have the same, kind of creator infrastructure that the right wing has? But it is clear that when they had a persuasive message, when they were looking to persuade people, They went to traditional sources to do that. This erosion of trust in institutions is endemic, and it is bigger than just, do people not trust media anymore in the mainstream media? But it extends to brands, and it is why influencer marketing is so important. I don't think brands are going to be able to persuade people of anything. If we're honest, brands have spent decades lying to our faces. Trust increasingly sits with individuals. And I think that is why this election is such a pivotal moment in the history of influencer marketing. In the most consequential marketing challenge in the world, the way that they persuaded people was through individuals. And I think if you are a marketer and you still feel skeptical about influencer, and does it work, does it not, this needs to be a wake-up call for anyone whose job it is to persuade or to communicate a message, that they need to be doing that largely through other people and through individuals. And if you are still asking yourself if this works, if you are still fighting over different percentage points of ROI, it is a losing game. And I have said for years now that the brands that are winning aren't sitting around in their boardroom asking what ROAS they're getting on influencer marketing. They are figuring out how to spend more money on it because they believe that it works, because they know it works, and because they don't need data to tell them this is where people are being persuaded. This is how people are being persuaded. That doesn't mean you shouldn't be refining the work you do and using data to make it better. But if you are waiting for data to tell you if influencer marketing is effective, you are losing. And if you can win the presidency using creators, then you can certainly sell some fucking skincare. I think the interesting thing about the TV ads is it reminds us as marketers that persuasion is more important than reach, right? That like the Harris campaign, they paid a lot more to get their message in front of people. We're not political strategists, so we're not going to talk about the message and how that could have been tweaked. But they do have to look at the distribution and say, okay, I think a big part of it is that they got the message in front of people and it didn't persuade them. You can't put your message where you wish your audience was. You have to show up where your audience is, and you have to participate in the communities that they are participating in. You know, this is, as a brand, let's take it away from politics, this is how we're used to spending money. This is what we usually do. Okay, well, it doesn't fucking work anymore. So you can ignore it, and every year have those marketing dollars work less and less for you, or you can accept the reality, adjust, and go where your audience is. I use the example of the Rolling Stones all the time, right? And being the biggest band in the world, and then like punk and hip hop coming around. If you own a record label that reps the Stones, and you're saying, God, I wish people listen to rock and roll. Great, you can believe that. Ultimately, if you want to make money, you should probably you should probably get some hip hop artists. Most CMOs and most organizations, I think, are still delusional in their belief that the other places that they're spending money in their marketing is working. Again, this is just an example of why it's not. In summary, we have been talking for years on this podcast and elsewhere that we think influencer marketing is moving to the center of marketing. It will become the dominant form of brand communication. I believe we have stopped talking about the future tense and started talking about the present. It is the dominant form of persuasion. It is not yet the dominant form of advertising, but there is an opportunity there for advertisers who can understand that and who can make a radical shift in the way that they spend money, in the way that they get in front of customers. Hopefully next episode, we'll talk about something a little lighter. Maybe who we think is going to win the Great British Bake Off. I personally was sad that my Gen Z girly was booted off, but the handsome pirate man, I don't know any of these people's names, because I literally can't understand a word coming out of their mouths. But handsome pirate man might still win, so I'm now pulling for handsome pirate man.